Telling you, I'm about tired of this BS. I'm out here sitting in the woods waiting patiently with my new 22. We'll see what's going on here. I'll of course get into that as I get into the video. As you know, Carolyn and I have been working pretty hard this summer, just refining everything that we've done. Last 3 years we've been, I guess, pretty busy just getting systems into place. When we got here, we put the camper down on the ground, hooked up some solar panels, got the well running. And ever since then, we've been systematically just building one thing after another, doing one thing after another. The next step was to get the well fixed, or at least running, I should say. Got the IBC tank. And then we built the tiny house and got moved into there. Then we repaired the well, spent, I don't know, several months repairing the well. Then we started into food preservation because that was going to be a big problem for us. So we started canning food. And we had this little dorm-sized refrigerator, had a fully functional freezer, but it was only holding 30 days worth of meat. So we needed to figure out long-term storage. And of course, all this was happening around the pandemic time too, or shortly thereafter. So we were trying to figure out how to be able to stay here longer than we did when the pandemic first took place. You got to remember, when we moved here that month, the pandemic hit and we were all told basically stay home. Well, that's pretty difficult for us, obviously, because we just got here. We needed to do things, but we were able to stay here 30 days, even though we really didn't have any of the systems hooked up. And then we built a tiny house during the pandemic. The second year we got chickens. We started canning food, and so it was really about food. Down, we had like 300 cans of food, jars of food. Well, then recently our freezer broke, our refrigerator, I should say. So we bought a freezer. I guess that was over the last winter. We haven't focused too much more on canning, and we're just putting freezer food in it. We got about 3 months worth of food in it. And Carolyn wanted to slow down on canning because we had so much canned food that she was worried that eventually it was going to not expire. I mean, you're only supposed to keep canned food for a year. And this was getting up to a year and a half, 2 years old. Of course, we feed Skitty, the chicken. She eats about a jar a week, probably, maybe a little bit more than that. So we're starting to run low on canned food, jarred food. So yesterday we started talking about, what are we going to do with all these jars? Are we going to can again? And to me, it's just good security blanket. I kind of like having those jars. Even if we never can again, she was worried we wasted money, and I just don't think it's a waste of money. I think it was a good security blanket. We decided this summer was the summer that we were just going to kind of improve what we already have. We thought we were going to really focus in on the chickens this year. Well, two things happened that we couldn't really do that. Carolyn's son came down here. So we bought that camper, we had to get that set up. So it really took our time away from being able to incubate chickens. It doesn't take a lot of work, but there is work involved. You're always cleaning the cage and different things. And then the second thing happened was we had a rooster who broke his foot. So we had to get rid of him. And we had to get a new rooster. Well, we were looking for a full-grown rooster. Well, this person said, hey, I got one for 10 bucks, as long as you don't eat it. I said, no, we're not gonna eat it. We need it to incubate eggs. I didn't realize it wasn't old enough to mate with the hens just yet. He is mating now, but we needed him to mate before June. Otherwise, if we'd incubate, say, let's now in July, they will not lay eggs until next spring. So you're feeding two groups of chickens that aren't laying any eggs. Well, I'd rather just feed one group of chickens that isn't laying eggs instead of two. So next spring, we might incubate. So we had two things going on. No rooster, and Carolyn's son was here. Well, while Carolyn's son was here, he needed more electricity than what we had. I mean, just hooking him up to run lights and different things, we had plenty. But he wanted to be able to run the air conditioner, and he wanted to be able to run the TV with his Xbox. Well, initially we thought we would give him a generator. We had this old 2,000 watt generator, and he could run that into the ground. We didn't care. Well, it died right before he got here. So I put a new carburetor in it, and it worked. But more and more things were going wrong with it. So we decided to get rid of that. And I thought, let's upgrade to solar panels. That's a more long-term solution. So we bought a smaller generator to replace the one that broke, but it wasn't enough to run his air conditioner. So we got the solar panels upgraded. And then we bought a new charge controller. So now we have 2 charge controllers, 2 extra solar panels. So when I got the charge controller, I installed it in the camper. This is before we put the shed up. As you know, we just recently put a metal shed up, and we're going to take down that old truck camper. The old truck camper, it's just starting to show its age, and Carolyn doesn't want it there anymore, so she started building this metal shed. Before we got the shed built, I put the new charge controller inside the camper. Well, I didn't realize the camper had a leak in it, and so water dripped down onto the charge controller. Now, I just bought it. It was a $100 charge controller, like the day before. I just got it. So I did something very courageous. I took it apart. I mean, completely apart. And I set it in front of a fan, I let it dry out in the hopes that once it dried out, it would work again. Put it back together. Now, when you do this, you take pictures of every step, where the screws are, and what part goes where. So I put it back together, and it works great. The thing that is so interesting to me is every step of the way, people told me either we can't do that, or you can't do that, can't be done, I don't know how to do it, I'm not smart as you. Just everything to put a negative spin on anything. I remember when we bought this place, got down here, that I was going to use 1 cord of wood each year, and this 1.5 acres would be able to supply that much firewood. I can't tell you how many people were telling me that's just not possible. You cannot do that. They were going to other YouTube channels and complaining about, I've been burning firewood for 30 years and this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Can't do it. I've been doing it. As a matter of fact, I haven't even touched a healthy tree on this property. Got all my firewood from other places. You know, people cut down their trees and then they put it on Free Stuff Marketplace on Facebook. So you get this app, Free Stuff, and it monitors Facebook Marketplace, and if there's free firewood, you go get it. So we've got 15 years worth of firewood, and yes, you can have 15 years worth of firewood. It's not going to rot, which is another thing. You can't keep 15 years of firewood. It's not going to work. Yes, it will. I mean, I've already had it, what, nearly 4 years, and it's still in good shape. I mean, some of it still isn't even cured. It's still green after all this time. So yeah, you can. Now, if you're running pine, probably not, but oak, hickory, it's going to last forever. Now, I will admit that when we were using the heat exchanger on the truck camper, everybody thought that was a genius idea. And it was one thing that didn't really do that well. It was very inefficient, and it used 8 cords of firewood in 3 months. It was a ton of firewood that we used. But now we're in a tiny house, and that's what didn't make sense is we're in a little house. It's a little shed. And oh, you're going to use more firewood than you think. So we have an efficient wood stove in a tiny house. We light it maybe 3 times a day with like 3 sticks. It hasn't used more than 1 cord of wood per year. So of course you can't do it because they've got 30 years experience, but they don't have 30 years of knowledge. They got experience, but not knowledge. They don't research. They just have been doing the same thing over again for 30 years, not improving their situation. But we, like I said, we've been trying to improve our situation. Then we built a tiny house, and I can't tell you how many times, oh, that ain't gonna work, can't do that, can't do that. No, you gotta follow code, no, you got that, on and on and on and on. And I built it, it's still standing, and it doesn't even look like there's any problems with it yet after, what, 2 years of it being there? Haven't had an issue yet. That back porch was supposed to fall down in the first snow. First snow was gonna fall down. I'm still waiting. We've had snows, but I don't know what they're actually considering the first snow. We had like I don't know, a 6-inch snow, and it held fine. But you can't do it. And the thing is with the information available nowadays, you can do anything. You can find out how much a 2x6, 8 foot across is going to hold. That back porch, I calculated. If I took it out and laid it out correctly at my all the pieces to my pickup truck, that back porch roof would hold. So I don't know what that is, but a lot more than what a snow around here is going to do. And the thing is people don't think. In Alaska, they get like 18 feet of snow, and you see videos of this all the time, people knocking the snow off their roofs. So you got to be proactive. The well, that's the one that's the most amazing to me, is the well. I bought a well pump. Now, I was on a submarine. I was a machinist mate on a submarine, and I know how pumps work. I took them apart all the time, put them back together, fixed them. It's just, I mean, every kind of pump you can imagine. Somebody said, no, you can't do what you want to do with that well pump. So what we want to do is turn it on, fill an IBC tank. So it's on, stays on, and then when the IBC tank's done, it shuts off. They said, you cannot run a well pump that long. It will burn up. Well pumps are designed to turn on and turn off, turn on, turn off. Well, actually, that's not true. It's not even designed to do that. It's just what they do with it. The more you cycle a well pump's motor, the more it'll burn out, the faster it'll burn out. But you turn it on, leave it on, it stays cool. As long as you don't run it out of water, it will run forever. So here we are, 3 years into this, and I haven't burned up a well pump yet. But you just can't. And this woman, she went all over the place. She went on Facebook and other YouTube channels, just screaming at everybody that would listen to it. Somebody needs to stop me, because her husband digs wells. I don't know what digging wells have to do with understanding how a pump works. Yes, I know you put a pump down into the well, but that does not make you an expert on the pump itself. When the pump goes out, a well man is going to pull the pump out and put a new one down. That's it. That's all they're going to do. So my philosophy has always been, if it's broke, fix it. You can't break it anymore. So today, I had to repair this 22. Dad gave this to me a few weeks ago. I showed you, made some videos on it. I really like this. It's a little Marlin M60. I don't even think they make them anymore. Ruger bought them out, but there's millions of these that were produced. Very popular 22. I'm a big fan of 22s. It's just huge. People will tell you, you got to have a bigger gun. You can't do a 20. You got to have knockdown power. Well, I'm telling you, you shoot somebody with this, they're not going to be happy about it. Even if they do survive, they're not going to be happy about it. And I've done a lot of hunting with 22s. I actually had a neighbor that shot a deer with a 22. My dad shot a deer with a 22, and Carolyn's friend, neighbor, old-time friend, neighbor, shot a deer with a 22. So you can't shoot deers with 22. It will kill things. It will kill a human, it'll kill a deer. You can't do that. You always got to do something more. And this is why people can't live their dreams, is because they just can't seem to think, I can do it with less. We live in America, and America's, you got to have more to do less. That's just the way people think, and I just don't think that way. So he gave me this. It's, I don't know, probably made in the 90s, and I decided to take it apart. First thing I did was I put a laser sight on it. My right eye is gone. Doctors ruined it, gave me steroids, and it destroyed my eye. So I can't use the sights anymore. So I put this laser sight on it, and boy, I'm telling you, I've got it even marked on the scope here. I've got 3 spots marked out on it for different range. So up here is 30, here at that mark is about 15, and then back here I think it's like real close. So there was something else that I couldn't do. I could not use my eye to shoot this, which I could do it. I was doing left-handed, and it was so uncomfortable, but that laser has made all the difference in the world. So I decided I was going to take it apart and clean it real thoroughly because it was jamming up. So I took it all apart, and I noticed that there was this little bump stop in the back that was broke, and the spring, the recoil spring, had a pretty good kink in it. So I bought those parts, and I started watching videos on it. I had one of these in the past, but in the past, YouTube was not around. Now that I've got YouTube, I can actually get in there and I can disassemble the mechanism firing components. That old one I had never would eject, and I know why. It was dirty, but I was too afraid to get in there and tear it apart because there's like 50 springs in there. Not that many, but there's a lot of springs. But I had to fix this one. I just had to. It's a really nice shooting gun. I really wanted to keep it, so I just had to figure out how to do it. So I got on YouTube and watched these videos on how to disassemble it. Now, the field stripping and cleaning, it's only 2 pieces. That's not hard. But actually getting there and changing that bump stock, that plastic bump stock, I had to take the whole assembly apart with all those springs. So I carefully watched videos. I did exactly what he did, but when I lifted it off, everything just fell apart. I come to the conclusion that it was already broke. But I went ahead and finished up the video, and I watched several more videos, and I paid attention very carefully, and I would pause it as soon as he did something, and I'd look at it and I'd put it together. And now it is working better than it was. Now you can do it. You just got to have the confidence to do it. And it's getting to the point nobody wants to do anything. They just don't have the confidence. They want somebody else to do it for them. They want somebody to tell them how to do it. Just get on YouTube. All the information in the world is on YouTube. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about the water heater. So I hope I can inspire you to tell yourself you can do it. At least try. Thanks for watching.